Hey, what is up, everyone? This is officially Devlog number 9. We're still making progress on the game, but I am not at home right now. But I'm just gonna essentially update you on what has been done. So far in the game, I have finished all these auto loads. So the auto loads are just, to be honest, I am still figuring things out and I am kind of going blind. But from what I understanding so far is I create okay, so right now I'm showing you my okay, my bad. It seems I got mixed up. So an auto load is essentially when the game starts, run these, right? Nothing needs to tell these things to run. So my managers are gonna be running. I was confusing it with my resources, which are right here. We have data and then resources. And also we have our system scripts, right? We have like our combat system, our crafting system. So with the resources, that's what I was getting confused with. But essentially with the resources, from my understanding so far is I create these resources and I can essentially reference them elsewhere in the code. Um, what are the resources officially? I don't know. This is devlog number 9. I said, let me try and vibe code a game instead of actually watching tutorials because it's essentially the same thing. And I am very much aware that I cannot really trust whatever is given to me, but I think it's a nice medium. I truly believe, I think vibe coding a game is a lot better than, using tutorial. Why? Because first of all, the AI is gonna lie to you. It's gonna tell you stuff that does not exist, and it's up to you or me, right, to figure out shot call, understand what's going wrong. When when it comes to tutorial, right? At the end of the day, I'm still gonna be like kind of following tutorial blindly. I'm not necessarily building exactly what I want to build. I'm building whatever the tutorial is about, and a lot of these tutorials are very animation, very um, I would say animation heavy. Why? Because a lot of these tutorials are like Castlevania, are Vampire Survivor clones, are you know Metrovanias, 2D, whatever game, RPG lights, and that's not something I'm interested in. I want games that are very system heavy, and that's what I'm really building. I don't know what I'm building. I more or less set like so my approach to building games is kind of a little bit different. I'm not necessarily thinking in terms of visual representation because to me that's just flesh. The flesh can change. I could paint any type of picture I want, but I'm trying to I'm I'm trying to imagine my code base as like the canvas itself. Instead of buying the canvas, I'm building the canvas itself, and I could paint it because with an RPG foundation, right? You could literally make anything, right? Like you could just say, okay, if you have an RPG system, you could say, I want to make a Cars RPG. I want to make an RPG where it's Bakugan or Pokemon or a creature collector, or I say, I want a dungeon crawler, a fantasy game. It doesn't matter. You have the systems in place, and because I have the systems in place, I could give it a new coat of paint whenever I want, and that's what I'm trying to do. So in terms of that, right, let's go back to what I was doing. Let me just double check if OBS is working. I'm not in my usual setup. So yeah. So what I started doing recently is I started actually implementing the logic for my managers. So what are the managers? Man, I'm still basically understanding, but here we have our combat manager that has essentially finished. So I do have a lot of comments, right? So so I could hard code an encounter with my player character. I could hard code the encounter with enemies, but the manager is this third entity that handles all of that in the background, and hence it is an auto load, right? So the manager, the combat manager, is gonna handle the state of, is combat present, is combat active, or is combat not. The manager decides, hey, we're starting combat. The 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 enemy, right? The manager is actually going to handle the enemy attacking, not the enemy itself. Why? I don't know, because in my mind is, you know, I would have to hard code every enemy. That's why the manager exists, right? Like, instead of each individual enemy having the ability to attack, this combat manager is going to handle that. Keep in mind though. So one thing I am doing, I would say, if you are looking to start vibe coding a game, just keep in mind that I would say most AI is really trained on, software, in terms of, like, most common software engineering. And if you're using something like Godot, it's trained even less on that, you know. So just keep that in mind. It's not the training set is not as heavy as with, like, I know what Unity uses, like C sharp, or Unreal uses like C plus plus. And with that though, like, there's just so many corporate uses with C sharp, with C plus plus, and there's already real established game patterns. You will probably get a lot more. Um, I don't even know what word, because I don't know, AI hallucinates, and with C plus plus and C sharp, you should the hallucination the hallucinations that AI is gonna go through will probably be magnitudes less than Godot. But luckily, GD script is very similar to Python. So that's one thing you have to be very wary about, is that it will default to Python and you must catch it. So I know I rambled for a bit, but what I would say is, if you vibe code a game, I most definitely recommend line by line. Don't blindly trust anything. If you go line by line, first of all, it's going to give you feedback. You're going to understand what the hell you're doing. You're not going to be too lost. The other thing is, oh, sorry, you will be able to catch stuff. So I know I do have all these errors, but I do have cursor open, but I kind of just so ignore these errors. These errors don't matter. It's because I have um a document open that I just use to put stuff, because everything's like commented out, and I just made another document, and it keeps good. The Godot engine keeps reading it, so it's nothing. Like, you could literally say it's like instructions. So you can ignore that. That doesn't matter to me. So yeah, I kind of rambled with that. So I mean, that's kind of it. I will say I had one big issue, right? One major issue that I had to fix today. And oh, so another thing is, I just be having, so since I am starting with, like I said, in terms of gameplay, right? I personally like things that are very system heavy, very, you could call it intricate. I like the idea of games like RimWorld, of Legends of Ood, of, like, hell, I even like The Sims, right? I like The Sims. I like a lot of simulators. I like a lot of idle games. So I like a lot of, systems, right? To me, it's very interesting. But that just means my games are gonna be a lot more code heavy than necessarily, like, asset animation and stuff like that. Like, honestly, I'm building a turn-based something, right? It's gonna be a turn-based something game, right? Probably like a blend of idle games and stuff like that, because I don't really play idle games idly. I am very active when it comes to idle games. So I kind of rambled for a bit, but the issue I had was, give me 1 second. I'm trying to figure out. It should be in my loot. Hmm. Or maybe it's in the inventory. Stats, no, stage. Where the hell did I put it? I thought it was a loot system, but maybe it's in the inventory. Oh no. Okay, maybe it's in my resources. Oh. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. So the issue I had was, you see how it just extends items, right? This extends items, so do my, I believe my my consumables, my, not my attacks. I'm looking for weapon. So my weapon extends item. Yeah. I had an issue when I was making the inventory system and I was doing the logic function for this inventory. The big issue was that my consumables, my armor, my weapons were not an extension of items. They were actually a so they were actually like a sibling. And truth be told, I don't know. It just by listen. This is my ninth devlog, and I'm kind of raw dogging everything. I'm not necessarily like a professional. I'm literally learning as I'm going. This is just my progress. Yeah, I could have done a Udemy course or whatnot, but that's not entertaining to me. And if I were to do that, yes, I might learn stuff, but I also will learn a bunch of shit that I'm never gonna use. This is a lot more stressful, but it's a lot more fun and enjoyable. So what I was saying was that I don't really necessarily understand. All I know is that, I have this document somewhere. I made a markdown. Let me see if I could see it. Yeah, so that's another thing I've been doing is anytime I encounter an issue, so I didn't have an item-based class, right? Shit. Whatever. So the benefits of by having this item class that all of these can extend is that, one, I have tight safety now. I could do array item and it can hold weapons, armors, and consumables. Now my code base will be simpler. Now it's more consistent in design. And now so now there will be no more breaking changes, because I think the issue propped up was when I was building an array and I put in brackets like item and it didn't work, right? Because the alternative was saying that something is an item or something. Yeah, so the design treats items as a sibling for consumables slash materials, but my code base was using it as if it was a base class for everything, right? So, so I so so the issue was that items were consumables and materials, but weapon and armor were not treated as items. But with this new implementation, item is the base class for everything that goes into inventory. So weapons, armor, consumables all go into the inventory. So the issue was really just the fact that my consumables and materials, right, were treated differently than my weapons and armor, and that brought me a lot of issues. Yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, this is something I learned. I'm still processing. I'm still trying to understand. but I would definitely recommend, if you do try and vibe code, don't copy and paste. At least go line by line if you are gonna copy and paste, but don't copy and paste the whole, like, sometimes it's like one line of code could be like whatever, like 20 lines. Like, don't copy the full 1,000 line. Go piece by piece, comment everything, try and learn, because I think the issue is that I would say for the most part, code looks like hieroglyphics, looks like hieroglyphics, or it looks like a foreign language. It looks foreign, and if it does look foreign to you, that is an issue. You have to be able to learn. I would say that's the priority, is to get to the point where you look at code and it looks like English to you, and it doesn't look like gibberish. It doesn't look like, ancient Egyptian language or some shit like that. It doesn't look alien. So that's where I'm at. I've kind of just been adding the logic to all my managers. So what the most recent thing I have done, is, as I said, I was working on the inventory system, on my inventory manager. Still not done, as you can see with these errors. So the functions from the logic I have to finish implementing is a function to add items. That's done. The function to remove items. The function to equip items is on progress. A function to unequip. The function to check if there is space in inventory is done. Get inventories, just to retrieve it, is not done yet. Or is it done? I think so, because it says return inventory. I think that's like a placeholder. Because it should send like a signal or something. I don't know, man. I'm not the expert. Maybe once I'm like on episode on Devlog 100, I'll be an expert. So here we have. Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, we have gone pretty deep into this shit. This is just to check item requirements. That's it. That's all I had to share today. Bye.